Okay, imagine you're chilling rewatching Shin Godzilla and suddenly you pause at that creepy final shot with the tail spawning those nightmare humanoids. What if I told you that's just scratching the surface of how terrifying Shin Godzilla could become? From a helpless radioactive sea creature to a reality-warping cosmic deity straight out of Lovecraft, Shin Godzilla's got 8 insane evolutionary forms, each more powerful, weird, and unsettling than the last. So buckle up because we're diving into every stage of Shin Godzilla's monstrous transformations, and trust me, by the end, you'll question if Godzilla even counts as a monster anymore. First off, the preform. Unlike a lot of older Godzilla movies where the big guy's origins is linked to nuclear bomb tests, Shin Godzilla's story gets kind of twisted. The film says that nuclear waste was dumped into the ocean, courtesy of the United States, and that some ancient sea creatures ended up feasting on this toxic stew. These creatures evolved, or mutated might be the better word, over decades until you got something that was so radically changed it barely resembled the original sea life. We never see this preform in the movie, aside from glimpses of its tail and the destruction it causes, but official material suggests it was basically a giant aquatic organism roaming around, building up its nuclear powers and waiting for the right moment to crawl onto land. The most terrifying part of this backstory is how it parallels actual anxieties about radioactive waste. Shin Godzilla, like Godzilla of 1954, serves as a protest or at least pointed comment about nuclear disasters, only this time, it's also very much a nod to real-life events like the Fukushima nuclear crisis. So that's your baseline. An ancient marine critter hopped up on nuclear waste that eventually surfaces near Tokyo, but oh, we're just getting started. Now, the first official stage. It's kind of a blink and you'll miss it transformation because you never see all of them in the film, just this huge tail flipping around in the water, maybe some dorsal fins. Concept art reveals something out of your worst swamp nightmares, like a slimy, pale lizard fish frog hybrid that looks like it barely knows what it's doing. The dorsal fins are super raw, and the skin is kinda that nasty yellowish color, with patches of red muscle exposed. It's almost like the creature's still forming. We see it half crawling, half swimming around in these tight harbor channels. It's also rumored to have gills so big they could constantly spurt red fluid, hinting that it's not fully adapted to land. It's kind of tragic, actually, like this monstrosity that's forced to come on shore but can't even breathe air properly yet. Then we leap into the second form. This is the one that made people go, what the heck am I looking at? Because it looks so ridiculous and yet so disturbing all at once. It's often referred to by fans as Kamata-kun. He's got huge googly eyes that are too big for his face and tiny little stub arms, and he's basically half flopping around the city, smashing buildings not out of rage, but because he's just that clumsy. He's also got these big bleeding gills on his neck, so you can see red fluid streaming out. This form might look like a joke, but it's still lethal because of its sheer size. It measures something like 92 feet tall. If you saw it in real life, you'd be screaming at the top of your lungs. Military attacks barely register with him. He's so single-minded that the bombs and bullets might as well be mosquito bites. But Godzilla's not stopping. Next, we get the third form. Now he's standing more upright, looking more like the Godzilla we know, but still not quite there. His legs are stronger and he seems more balanced, though he's still got that freaky chest and weirdly elongated neck. The gills start to close up, meaning he's finally adapting to oxygen-based respiration. He's also generating a lot of heat, which we can see glowing around his dorsal fins, like a built-in radiation furnace. The big difference here is that the third form is a bit more stable, though you'll notice he's still very shaky when he walks like a newborn calf that's figuring out its legs. But then, just as the military tries to intercept him, he's like, see ya, heads back out to sea to, surprise, surprise, evolve some more. Now, the fourth form, the big, nasty Shin Godzilla that covers half the movie posters. At this point, you see him standing at a towering 118.5 meters tall. That's about 388 feet if you're using the Imperial system, with black and red radioactive skin that looks like it's been flayed down to the muscle. Those teeth, jagged shards sticking out every which way. No lips, no cheeks, so he looks like he's got this permanent skeletal grin. His arms are still stubby, but they've developed into something that could at least push a building aside if he felt like it. The tail is monstrous, like twice the length of his body, with this super bizarre tip that we later discover has something like a spare mouth or head hidden in it. He finally unleashes atomic breath, and oh man, it's not just your run-of-the-mill purple laser beam. It starts as a cloud of black smoke, turns into flames, then tightens into a beam that slices through the city like a lightsaber through butter. But using this energy drains him like crazy, so after an all-out assault from the US Air Force, he basically runs out of juice and goes into a dormant state in the middle of Tokyo. That's where the main story of the movie climaxes, with the Japanese government figuring out the blood coagulant plan to freeze him. Great plan, right? Except Shin Godzilla never stops evolving. That leads us to his hinted fifth form. Right at the end of the movie, the camera pans up to the tail and we see these humanoid, skeletal figures bursting out, frozen in mid-mutation. It's absolutely chilling because it implies Godzilla was about to create an army of smaller, human-like spawn that could infiltrate cities, or at least operate in ways big, lumbering Godzilla couldn't. According to concept art, this is Godzilla's adaptation to fight humanity on its own terms. Humans are small, agile, and prone to using teamwork. Shin Godzilla's solution? Make a bunch of man-sized monsters that can swarm the populace. Official sources also talk about how this form would eventually develop flight, possibly by sprouting wings or maybe even using that crazy atomic beam as rocket propulsion. There's also talk about the potential for Shin Godzilla to split into multiple forms, swarming all over the planet. Honestly, that's what makes him so terrifying. He's not just a giant monster, he's evolution incarnate, and he can adapt infinitely. The only thing stopping him is total extinction on a subcellular level, basically a fancy way of saying you'd have to destroy him right down to the last microscopic piece, or he'd just grow back. Now, beyond the film, there's the sixth form, which is pure speculation from the official publications and concept art that never made it to the screen. In this hypothetical scenario, Shin Godzilla overcomes the need for air or water altogether. He harnesses his internal nuclear fission to an even higher degree, becoming entirely self-sufficient in terms of energy. That means no sleeping, no rest, no downtime. He's like a perpetual nuclear reactor, and you think that's enough? Heck no. Some creators envisioned him going full Lovecraftian, losing defined organs, becoming a blob of pulsating reactive tissue that can shapeshift as needed. Maybe at that stage he's not even a single creature, but more like a mass of Godzilla cells that can form any shape it wants, replicate itself endlessly, and even jump to different planets. Moving on to the seventh form, we're now talking about Shin Godzilla leaving Earth's atmosphere entirely and floating among the stars, adapting to outer space. The concept is that he becomes a hive mind with awareness of everything around him, synthesizing materials out of thin air, basically forging elements from raw cosmic energy. On a smaller scale, it's sorta like a star forging heavy elements in its core, but Shin Godzilla does it on command. He can even generate a small universe within himself, which is so over the top that it's basically pushing him into deity territory. Maybe entire galaxies exist inside him, swirling around like cosmic playthings. But that's the point. He's unstoppable. At that level, monster isn't the right word anymore. He's an entire ecosystem, a cosmic, unstoppable process. Then we get to the eighth form, the crowning freaky jewel of Shin Godzilla's unstoppable evolution. At this point, forget about physical laws. Shin Godzilla transcends the need for them. He's effectively a god with omnipotence, omnipresence, and immortality that outstrips anything we can picture. He's akin to a Lovecraftian entity, something like Azathoth, the blind idiot god in those old stories where mere dreams create entire realities. Shin Godzilla might be floating in a cosmic void, dreaming up universes, reshaping existence on a whim. Is that even Godzilla anymore, or is it something else entirely? It's the ultimate expression of the movie's theme, that this force of nature, fueled by humankind's own nuclear sins, evolves limitlessly until it's basically the alpha and omega of all creation. And the scariest part is that once he's at that level, there's no more controlling or defeating him. The only victory you had was way back when he was still small enough to blow up or freeze. Let him get a little further and whoops, you've got a cosmic deity on your hands. In the end, Shin Godzilla's evolution makes him unbeatable. Freezing him was just buying humanity a little more time. But is there anything out there capable of stopping his terrifying ascent to cosmic godhood? Could another kaiju, perhaps a legendary rival, step up to the challenge and stop Shin Godzilla before he conquers the universe? Let us know in the comments section. In the meantime, you can watch this other cool video that appears in your screen. Click on it to see it. Click it!